We'll call the meeting to order and have a roll call by the secretary.
Mr. Fiddler.
Here.
Mr. Overland.
Here.
Mr. Love.
Here.
Mr. Burridge.
Here.
Mr. Huckabee.
Here.
Mr. Alexander.
Here.
Mr. Burgess.
Here.
Mr. Regan.
Here.
The chair declares a quorum present to conduct business, and we'll call on Tim Tiegler, our Director of Engineering, for an announcement.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Mr. Secretary. First of all, I would like to turn around and ask Ms. Siv Sundram to please stand up. Thank you. I'd like to make this official. Sundram was named to the Division Engineer for the Environmental Programs Division in July 2016. She was definitely not in the United States for the August Commission meeting, so here we are today. Siv began her career with ODOT in 1994 as a professional engineer. She worked in local government division as the area engineer, the specification engineer, and office engineering division. She worked as an engineering manager for divisions 1 and 8, Way Design Division. From 1998 to 2005, she was the assistant division engineer for the Planning and Research Division until 2007, then held the position of an assistant division engineer for Environmental Programs Division until her promotion. She also served as the chair for several rewrite sections of the 2009 specifications. Siv holds a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from the Indian Institute of Technology in Madras, and has a master's in civil engineering from the University of Massachusetts, Amherst. She's registered professional engineer in Oklahoma and California. She is married to husband and has 2 daughters. So please congratulate Siv Sundram on her new promotion.
Congratulations again. We'll recognize the Director, Mike Patterson, for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Mr. Secretary. It's one of those days that I just absolutely hate. Not the fact that you're here, but the fact that Paul Green is leaving. Later in this month, at the end of September, after Paul gets all of his other chores done, we're going to let him actually leave, and we'll have a big party for him. But knowing that this was the last commission meeting that Paul would be here for on this side of the table, maybe not the other side. Paul came to the senior staff 3 years ago, and I really appreciate everything that he's done for us here at the central office as a member of the senior staff. When I introduced him 3 years ago, I talked about how he was a division engineer in Division 4 and an assistant construction engineer in Division 8, and some other things that he had done that, might have been illegal or nefarious or whatever. But I meant that in jest. Paul has been one of those guys, and when you look at Paul's past and how he came to the department, and then one day, as we all have mentors, one day a mentor took him under his wing, a guy by the name of Ed Kellogg, and suggested he might want to go to get his degree in engineering. And so he went back to school at Oklahoma State, joined the squad up there, and worked his way through that. He's inspected, been all over Sailboat Bridge in your division, Commissioner Regan. Paul has been that kind of guy that we've all looked up to and looked toward being with. Paul has been a great resource for me, not only professionally, but as a friend, and I do appreciate that. So just a small way for me to introduce Paul. Paul, I know you wanted to say something to the commission.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Secretary, Commissioners, I've been here 33 years. It's been a great pleasure, a great honor to work here for you, and I love the people I work for and the people I work with, and I've had a lot of great opportunities in my time, and Ed Kellogg took me to school, showed me that in November, and by January I was on the design squad in that division. It's pretty miraculous for that time, and I thought I was a decent inspector, and I asked him at the time why he would ever do this, and he said, one of these days you'll understand. He said, we need you to be in a leadership role. So, as the director once said, he saw me, I didn't see in myself. So I'm very, very appreciative of Mr. Kellogg. Another guy that was early in my career was Mr. Jim Rader. He was a survey chief, party chief. And when I walked in off the street, I'll tell you, I had no idea that I was going to have a career there and that kind of thing. But he showed me some ways, and maybe I wasn't living perfectly like I should. And he was a great man that had great character. And I really, as I look back, he had a great impression on my life. So, as many people have at this department. So I've seen a lot of things. It's great to watch people rally at ODOT. When we had the bridge knocked down, when we have landslides, rock slides, the Moore tornado, you watch this group rally and you watch the team come together, and it's really an honor to work with them and to have the professionals that we do. So I just want to say thank you for everything, and I'm most appreciative of Mike entrusting me to be the director of operations and working for Mr. Shell as well. So thank you.
Paul talks about how we rally, but we rallied behind him because of his leadership skills and his ability to communicate with people of all walks of life, here at the agency, at the legislature, or the public. Well, with Paul's leaving, we've selected a new director of operations, Darren Saliba. Darren came to the department back in 1983, in June of 83, as I recall. Darren has served as a resident engineer, a construction engineer in Division 1, and then became the division engineer in May of 97. Darren is one of those guys that a lot of people look to for sound advice. He's as described by Casey Shell, he's that walking historical encyclopedia. He remembers so many things that happened. One of the big things that happened, certainly involving Darren in Division 1 and Secretary Ridley, was in May of 2002, was the knockdown of the I-40 bridge. And the way Darren in his division took care of business over there, along with help from a lot of people, but Darren had a pivotal role in that effort. And without his leadership at that level, it would not have been and not have gone as well as it did. But if you could, commissioners, if you could welcome Darren. Darren, please come up here and say a few words.
Gentlemen, thank you for allowing me to be here. I'd like to thank the director for placing his trust in my abilities, and the rest of the senior staff, Mr. Shell. Look forward to working with the commission, and it's a very appropriate career opportunity for me at this time in my life. I thank you all very much.
Director Patterson, a good send-off for Mr. Green. As you know, he's been a fixture here for a long time, and certainly hate to see him go. But what a great appointment in his replacement. And as you pointed out, and rightly so, what took place that May in 2002 and the leadership that Darren provided us was second to none. I think what a lot of folks may or may not realize, the problem and the importance of putting the bridge back so quickly was the detour. and the problems that were on the detour. And Darren was responsible, full responsibility of the detour. We spent as much money as, you wrote the checks, Mike, in another job that you had, on the detour and the work that he had done. But Darren was there every day. He lived with it. He's pretty impressive character. The only suggestion that I might make is that if you could give Darren your tie, and that way it'll be forever here in the department. Congratulations, Darren.
Mercy. It's pretty heavy here today. But on a serious note, I think I showed up here in 1990. And this is one of the most remarkable places that I've ever been associated with. You know, when you look out over the crowd here and you see the ODOTers and you see a lot of former ODOTers, what has always amazed me is the servant leadership that I've seen in this organization while you're here and when you leave. You guys work together so well, and we're all in private business, and we work to emulate what you guys have gotten done. It is truly remarkable. And, you know, here lately we've had a lot of senior guys go to do other things, and it's just appropriate to recognize how you have responded and what you've had to respond to. And I would just commend you. It's one of the greatest honors of my career to be associated with Oklahoma Department of Transportation. Item number 120 is the approval of the minutes of the Transportation Commission meeting of August the 1st, 2016. What will be your pleasure?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. We have a second. And as soon as they catch up with us, we'll vote. Try it again. It's not gonna work. Well, mine's not gonna work, guys, so. But we'll record that the motion passed unanimously. And we'll hear item number 121 through 124, which is the consent docket. What's your pleasure on the consent docket?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Before we vote, I would mention, failed to mention that if there's an item a commissioner would like to take out and discuss separately, make that be known. Hearing none, we are ready to vote. Okay, you can take the secretary's, there you go, you got it now. Motion passes. We'll hear item 125, the engineering contracts by Mr. Tiegler.
Good morning. Again, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Mr. Secretary. First of all, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Chairman, for those kind words about ODOT. Very much appreciated. Thank you. Item 125 are engineering contracts. Both of these are in Commission District 5, Part A in Beckham County. We've selected EST to provide engineering and construction plans for I-40 rehab eastbound and westbound bridges over the North Fork of the Red River. This is a not to exceed $144,200. This project is in our 8-year construction work plan and scheduled let date in FY 2021. Part B, Custer County, also in District 5. We have selected MacArthur Associated Consultants to provide engineering and construction plans for I-40 rehabbing eastbound and westbound bridges over Neptune Road and the railroad in Clinton. This is a not to exceed amount, $247,300. This also is in our 8-year construction work plan and the scheduled let date in FY 2022. Approval is recommended, and I'll try to answer any questions that you may have.
You've heard the recommendation on item 125. What's your pleasure?
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we're ready to vote. Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Tigler. You may proceed with item 126, the engineering contract supplements.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have 8 parts this month. Part A is a statewide contract. We've previously selected 8 consulting firms to provide services to do our bridge rehab plans. This is with Poe and Associates. This is a $250,000 increase for them to finish up the projects they have currently going on. Part B, statewide also, all districts. This is with AIA Engineers. This is to provide our bridge inspections and perform necessary cleaning for bridges over railroads. This is a supplement not to exceed for $66,000. Part C is also a statewide contract. This is our on-demand, on-system bridge inspection services. This is with H.W. Lochner. The total increase for this contract is $200,000. Part D in Push, Taha County, this is District 2. This is for State Highway 3 over the Kiamichi River and US 271 over the Kiamichi River. Supplement for the additional engineering to develop final construction plans with Poe and Associates. This supplement not to exceed is for $168,284. Both projects that you see listed there are in our 8-year construction work plan in 2019 and 2016 respectively. Part E, Oklahoma County, District 4. This is for I-35 northbound and southbound bridges over Waterloo Road. Supplement to do the final construction plans with Garber for a not to exceed amount of $1,499,950. This project is also an 8-year construction work plan in FY 2021. Part F in Woodward County. This is for US 183, US 270 with Smith Roberts Baldischweiler. Supplement not to exceed $398,000. This project, both these projects are also included in our 8-year construction work plan in 2018. Part G, Pawnee County in District 8. This is for US 64, extending south to State Highway 18. This is with Smith Roberts Baldischweiler as well. This supplement not to exceed is $116,460. This project is in our 8-year construction work plan 2020. And finally, Part H, also in Pawnee County. This is with Garber Engineers for US 64 and Cedar Creek. Supplement not to exceed $37,360. This project is also in our 8-year construction plan in 2017. Approval is recommended. I'll try to answer any questions that you may have.
You've heard the presentation on item 126, the engineering contract supplements.
I had a question. On the E Waterloo Road interchange, what is the scope of that going to look like?
We are going to replace both of those bridges, northbound and southbound bridges. We're going to have the roadway involved with it as well. We're going to do traffic and retaining wall. There's going to be some studies, the hydraulics, hydrology. It's the whole enchilada, so to speak. So it also includes brand new survey and some traffic signals.
So I'm trying to picture, does Waterloo go underneath I-35?
Yes.
And so when we do that work, are we going to maintain the present bridge to where we can keep it operate where there's really no impact there per se? Okay.
The idea is to keep 2 lanes in each direction on I-35 going on. So there'll be some temporary closures when they're doing structural hanging beams and such. So we'll work through that with all the construction contractor. Good question, sir.
Any further questions? Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. We have a second to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, we are ready to vote. Motion passes. We'll move to item 127, which is the lettings, be presented by Mr. Atkins.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Secretary, members of the Commission, item 127 consists of the final November 2016 and the tentative January 2017 bid openings. The Department recommends approval of item 127.
You've heard the presentation of item 127.
Motion approved.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we are ready to vote. There you go. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Mr. Raymond is here to present the informational item 128. It's the change orders with a cumulative total of $50,000 or less.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Secretary, members of the commission. I'd like to present item 128, parts A through AA. As the chairman mentioned, these are the change orders on projects with a cumulative total of $50,000 or less. This item is for your information only, but I'll be glad to take any questions.
If there are no questions, we'll move to item 129. Those are the change orders with a cumulative total greater than $50,000.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Item 129, parts A through Y, change orders cumulative total greater than $50,000, and your approval is recommended.
You've heard the presentation for item number 129. What's your pleasure?
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, call the roll. We'll vote. Too many chairs. The motion passes.
Thank you.
And we will move to item 130, which is the awards. Mr. Dels is going to hand out some information and present the same thing.
Good morning. Item 130 are recommendations from the August 18th bid opening. It is recommended that the following items from the letting referred to by call order be awarded. It's call orders 5, 10, 40, 60, 70, 80, 90, 110, 120, 130, 140, 150, 160, 170, 185, 190, 210, 220, 230, 240, 260, 270, 280, 290, 300, 310, 320, 330, 340, and 360. This concludes the recommendations for award, and your approval is requested.
You've heard the presentation of item 130. Do we have a motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. We are ready to vote if there's no further questions. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dels. Item 131, we have some budget revisions. Ms. Helms.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Secretary, and members of the commission. Agenda item 131 has 7 parts, revisions to the 2017 budget, and all of them encounter our carryover funding. Part A is earmarked federal revenue in the amount of $149.9 million. Part B is for asset preservation in the amount of $10 million. C is the building replacement program in the amount of $757,000. D is the B projects in the amount of $2.8 million. E, routine maintenance in the amount of $11.2 million. F is the county equipment revolving fund in the amount of $2.6 million. And G is an increase to the curb program in the amount of $104.4 million. The department requests and recommends approval of this item, and I'll attempt to answer any questions you may have.
You've heard the recommendation for item 131.
Motion approved.
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second of that motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, we are ready to vote. Motion passes. Thank you. We are ready for the director's report. Mr. Patterson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Mr. Secretary. Before I get to the director's report, we have an addendum to our agenda. I believe it was mailed out to you late last week. It's item number 134.
Let's hear that item
Okay, thank
in
you, Mr.
this
Chairman.
order unless someone objects, Commission. With no objection, we'll hear item 134 as emergency.
Okay, this is requires no commission action, is a informational item for you. It's a declaration of emergency on State Highway 22, 169 interchange. On August 24th, a truck traveling south on US 69 carrying industrial sulfuric acid left the traveled portion of the roadway, ran up the bridge embankment, and impacted State Highway 22 US 69 bridge in Bryan County. The impact resulted in an 18 to 22 inch misalignment of beam 1, deflection of the top flange, separation of the shear connection from the deck, a compression failure on diaphragm number 2, as well as acid damage to the western third of span 1, the abutment, slope wall, and deck. Division 2 forces closed the bridge, and the bridge remains closed to traffic. On August 31st, I declared an emergency in accordance with Title 61 Oklahoma Statute Section 130 and the authority provided in Oklahoma Administrative Code to repair the bridge. Under the authority of my declaration, the department prepared repair plans, and using expedited bidding procedures will take bids for the repair on Friday, September 9th. It is expected that the work will begin on September 12th, which is a week from today, and will take approximately 60 days for completion. The estimated cost is $300,000. Again, Mr. Chairman, that's for your information.
Thank you. Does anybody have a question about that emergency order?
Mr. Chairman, given the nature of the cargo, is this all that needs to be done? I'm assuming that DEQ and everybody that was necessary was notified about this incident.
Yes, Commissioner, everyone was notified. DEQ, EPA were all on site to evaluate the situation, and this is all that needs to be done.
Okay.
I guess we could add that the road was open shortly after that. The bridge has been closed, and I think Division Engineer E. Kelly informed me that they're going to try to open up the bridge over 6975 when they can prior to construction. Yes. When construction hits, they'll close it again. But yeah, they were all over it. The Oklahoma Highway Patrol, DEQ, and ODOT.
Director's report?
Yes.
Okay. Last month at the commission meeting, we also had an emergency declaration for the repair of a railroad bridge on the Blackwell line in North Oklahoma. I just wanted to report that the bridge has been repaired, and so operations are back on that railroad line. The bond issue, the much discussed bond issue that came out in the legislative session. I told you last month that I was really looking forward to expediting getting on with that process, because we're looking at a $200 million transfer from ODOT to the special cash fund on December 1st. And as quickly as we could get our bond issue underway, the better off we would be. I'm here to report that process, through the efforts of many, the Capital Improvement Authority, the Council on Bond Oversight, and the team that is working the bond issue, everybody is working for an mid-October, October 15th type closure on that transaction. So that will provide the opportunity for us to begin drawing down that $200 million. And the sooner we can draw that down to replace the $200 million that we're going to be transferred on December 1st, the better off we'll be. One of the misnomers, if you will, that one of the questions that I've been asked on more than one occasion is, well, what new projects are you adding to the program because of the $200 million? Well, the simple answer is no. And it's only because of this $200 million that we're able to continue with the 8-year plan as the way it is. Because without the $200 million, we'd be looking to take projects out of the program. So it is We had to select 18. We didn't have to select 18. We selected 18 projects to use to draw down the $200 million. And they were just selected simply because of the size and the timing of those projects. They will be the first ones that will provide that ability to draw down the money. And I say draw down because one of the misnomers is that once the bonds are sold, that automatically the department receives $200 million. But that's not true. We have to spend money, get reimbursed from the trustee for that $200 million. So there's quite a cash flow transaction going on here. And in the coming weeks, you will see Russell Hewlin begin to create gray hair because he's trying to keep all this balanced and draw down money and lose money and spend money. So there's quite a cash flow thing going on here. But just wanted to make sure everybody understood we're on track just as I had hoped we would be. I'm very pleased about that. And there are no new projects. 7:03 last Saturday morning, an earthquake occurred, 5.6 up near Pawnee. You know, as commissioners, the department has been working for the last 3-4 years on an earthquake protocol. We've gone through several exercises, if you will. We got the real deal on Saturday, and I cannot be more proud of our agency for the way we responded. We inspected more than 180 bridges in a very short period of time. We made those inspections just simply to make sure that everything was okay. It sounds easy to say, but it's hard to do. But that is our lot in life. That is our goal, to provide a safe, effective, efficient transportation system, but safety is number one. And so in 3 divisions, 8, 4, and 6, we inspected those bridges within the protocol that we've established with the help of our consultants and the California Department of Transportation and a whole lot of people that are standing behind them. They did what they said they could do. And I just can't tell you how proud I am of them. And I know the governor is too, because she's given us a shout out several times. Mr. Chairman, I believe that's all I have in my report.
Director, you're certainly wise to point out the effort that everyone has done. The hours that ensued after the event, after the seismic activity, you were certainly well prepared. And as you pointed out, again, took 3 or 4 years before you were more comfortable than you were, and it really shows what you were able to accomplish. And again, I think that it would be good to point out, and I think the governor would want me to point out, not only to thank the department and the Turnpike Authority for what they were able to do, but also that this agency has focused their attention for the last so many years on structurally deficient bridges, and the effort put in to ensure that that bridges are not only safe to travel today, but safe to travel tomorrow. I don't know that any of us can and can't contemplate what may or may not have happened, whether any of those bridges that you had replaced or that you repaired or rehabilitated over the last few years would have made had a different result on Sunday as opposed to, or on Saturday, as opposed to what took place. But I can tell you without hesitation, it certainly gave the governor a degree of confidence in the agency that the work that you've been doing and the focus that you have made and the attention given to a problem that you identified and working with her plan to replace or rehabilitate these structural deficient bridges certainly pays off, and with peace of mind, if nothing else. And again, thank you a lot. I know Mr. Chairman, I'd visited with the director, and he was all over it before I could get my britches on, because I was still in bed when it took place. So again, thank you, Mike, and all your people and the folks and the work that you've done. So anyhow.
Thank you for the update. Also, I know I appreciate, and I know the other commissioners do too, is our publicity department getting in contact. Hopefully, this is what happened with the newspapers and the other people out there in the world, and getting them informed that we had been out, we had checked our bridges. So that's an integral part of what we're doing. So thank you guys for getting that done. And also, we need to make sure that Turnpike Authority and ODOT, everybody knows the difference, and that, theirs have been checked also. And I know that's happening, but we need to make sure that we're all coordinating together when we get that message out there. But once again, a great job, and your comments, who knows what would have happened. I'm certain that the efforts paid off. Do you have anything further?
The only thing I would add, and you reminded me of something, when you were talking about the coordinated effort, we were also able to reach out to county governments and city governments and made the offer, and we were accepted on a couple of occasions to inspect city street bridges, which we're happy to do once we get our job done. But certainly ours is number one priority, and then we came along to see if we could be of assistance to any others. But get to your point about Terry and her group getting the word out, it was huge, because there were people sitting at home wondering, is it safe to
Saves a lot of phone calls.
That's right. Saved a lot of phone calls.
Well, I know you guys reached out deep, and that's our job.
Yeah, that's our job.
Are there any further questions of the director?
I have one. It appears now that the legislature won't have a special session, and that some of a small portion of the funding will be returned to the agencies. But I read with interest late last week or this weekend that ODOT would not be a part of those return of funds. Can you explain some of that, or what the process is?
Well, yes. I don't know that I can explain it all, because as I reported to the commission the last couple months, we're looking at, depending on what the governor and the legislative leaders decided to do with the special session, would likely impact $11 million, and it's $11.4 million that would come back to the agency, because I really thought that's what was going to happen. As the cuts were made last year during the spring, and money was rightly so taken away from general appropriations agencies. The Roads Fund has a section of law that says that the department will participate at the equal level. Last Friday, we too learned that the list now has ODOT with 0. And a discussion late in the afternoon with the Director of Office and Management Enterprise Services, he reached out to me, and he and I are going to have a meeting sometime soon, maybe this week, maybe next week, but sometime soon, to discuss the 11.4. I can't explain it. I wish I understood it, because it's not what I thought was going to happen. But hopefully we will get it rectified. And if ultimately we don't receive the money, at least I can offer an explanation.
Offer the secretary for comments.
Director, this is the first I've heard of this as well. After you find out from OSF or whatever it is you're going to visit with, could you send a notice out to all of us to let us know what has taken place and why?
Yes, I will.
I'd certainly be interested in that myself. I have more than a passing interest in that.
Yes, you do.
As we all do, since I was under the impression it would take legislation to change the distribution of those funds. But you'll find out and let us know.
Yes, I will. Hopefully. Yes, sir.
I have a question.
Yes.
If we lose
part of this funds or the $11 million, does it not affect us in the future too with funding? Do we not lose more money next year then also?
Well, Commissioner, that's another question that we had. So it reestablishes the baseline for the roads fund and the amount that the roads fund receives this year, and then the 2 more years of additional funding will be based on that baseline. I'm hoping that the 11.4 increases our base so that the additional money that comes to us is on a new base, and we can actually get to our 575 cap faster or more in line with what we originally thought than where we're at today. So that'll be another question that we'll ask as we go through this process.
Because it could adversely affect us several years into the future.
It can. It could affect our 8-year plan development next year and beyond.
Thank you.
Well, you don't really mean faster, you mean along the lines we expected.
Along the lines we expected, rather than the delays we're experiencing today.
Yes, and it will affect us most certainly.
Yes.
Any further questions? Thank you, Mr. Director.
Thank you.
Mr. Secretary, do you have any further comments?
Do not.
Okay. You bet.
I'd just like to say I've really enjoyed working with Darren in Division 1. Hate to let him go, but we're getting a really good person up here in head office. And by the way, I didn't get a vote on that, Darren, so you're probably lucky.
With that, we'll hear a motion to adjourn. We have a motion. We have a second. Hopefully there's no discussion and we will vote. We are adjourned.